Death in the Palace. Who poisoned Hürrem Sultan? She started as a nobody, a slave girl, ripped from her homeland and thrown into the ruthless world of the Ottoman imperial harem. But Hürrem Sultan didn't just survive. She rose. She became the legal wife of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, something no concubine had ever done before. From behind the palace curtains, she pulled the strings of an empire. She eliminated her rivals, outmaneuvered generals, and reshaped the Ottoman court in her image. Then, one day in 1558, she died. No funeral, no investigation, just a sealed tomb. But rumors began swirling. She didn't die of illness. She was poisoned. By who? A jealous rival? Her own son-in-law? Or the Sultan himself? This isn't just a story about royalty. It's about power, betrayal, and one of history's greatest unsolved deaths. Because in the Ottoman, it and Hürrem Sultan, she. This is the story of her final days. Let me take you back to the 1500s, into the heart of the most powerful empire on earth, the Ottoman Empire. Its capital, Constantinople, now Istanbul, was a city of gold domes, sharp daggers, and silent corridors. Behind the towering walls of the Topkapi Palace, where secrets lived and truth was a liability, a young woman arrived in chains. Her name? Roxolana. She wasn't royalty. She wasn't noble. She was a slave, captured from the steppes of Eastern Europe, likely modern-day Ukraine, and sold into the Sultan's harem like so many forgotten girls before her. But fate had other plans. Because this girl wasn't ordinary. She had fire, not just in her iconic red hair, but in her soul. She was clever, quick-witted, and utterly fearless. She didn't shrink like the other concubines. She watched. She learned. She adapted. And eventually she caught his eye. His name was Suleiman. Suleiman the Magnificent, ruler of the Ottoman Empire. One of the most powerful men who ever lived. His empire stretched across 3 continents. His word was law. His enemies trembled at the sound of his name. And somehow, this former slave girl captivated him. Now here's where things get crazy. Concubines were never supposed to rise. They served, they bore children, and then they faded away. But Roxolana, now renamed Hürrem, meaning the cheerful one, did what no concubine had ever done before. She married him. Let that sink in. She didn't just become his favorite. She became his wife. That was political suicide for a sultan. It broke every tradition of the empire. The court was shocked. Nobles were furious. Generals whispered behind closed doors. But Suleiman didn't care. He was under her spell. And that, right there, is where the legend of Hürrem Sultan truly begins. From the moment she became his wife, she stepped into a role no woman had held before, the queen behind the curtain. But behind that curtain, the knives were already drawn. Because Hürrem wasn't just content with titles or pretty jewels. She wanted power, real power, and she knew how to get it. First, she targeted her rivals inside the harem. Women who had once shared Suleiman's bed were quietly removed, sent away, forgotten, or worse. No one could prove it, but things started to happen. Servants disappeared. Alliances crumbled. Rumors spread like wildfire. Then came her true masterpiece, a political takedown that shook the empire, Ibrahim Pasha. He was Suleiman's childhood friend, his grand vizier, the second most powerful man in the Ottoman world, untouchable until Hürrem decided he wasn't. Through subtle whispers and careful manipulation, she sowed seeds of doubt in Suleiman's mind. Accusations of betrayal, secret meetings, disloyalty. And one night, Ibrahim Pasha was invited to the palace for dinner. He never left. They strangled him with a silk cord, Ottoman style. No blood, no noise, just silence. And just like that, the man who ruled beside the Sultan was gone. Who replaced him? Hürrem's own son-in-law, Rustam Pasha. Loyal, obedient, connected to her. One by one, the pieces on the chessboard began to move. And they moved in her favor. She wasn't a figurehead. She was a force. She influenced policy, managed correspondence with foreign leaders, built schools and charitable foundations, and yes, she schemed. Some historians call her a feminist icon, a woman who shattered centuries of silence in the most patriarchal society on earth. Others call her a cold-blooded manipulator, a queen who let blood spill as long as it didn't stain her hands. But everyone agrees on one thing. Hürrem Sultan was dangerous, and as her power grew, so did her enemies. One of them was Mahidevran Sultan, Suleiman's former consort, and the mother of his firstborn son, Prince Mustafa. Mahidevran had once been the top woman in the palace, until Hürrem came along, and Hürrem made sure she stayed gone. But Mahidevran never forgot what she lost, or who took it from her. Others at court hated Hürrem, not because of who she was, but what she represented. A woman, an outsider, a former slave, who had bent the most powerful man alive to her will. They couldn't stop her when she was rising, so they waited for her to fall. And fall she did, but not the way they expected, because in 1558, Hürrem Sultan, still sharp, still feared, still pulling strings, fell suddenly, violently ill. What happened next? That's where the mystery begins. But before we go there, remember this. Hürrem wasn't supposed to be remembered. She was supposed to be a footnote, a forgotten name among thousands of women who passed through the palace. Instead, she became a legend, and legends don't die quietly. Topkapi Palace, 1558. The sky over Istanbul hangs heavy with rain. Thunder rolls through the Bosphorus Strait, echoing off marble courtyards. Inside the palace, a woman walks slowly down a corridor. Her footsteps are soft, but the silence around her is deafening. That woman is Hürrem Sultan. She's no longer the fiery young concubine who once lit up the Ottoman court. She's in her early 50s now. Her face is sharper, her eyes colder. The red hair has faded, but the fire inside, still burning. She still holds the ear of the Sultan. She still signs letters to European monarchs. She still controls appointments to key posts in the empire. But she also knows the walls are closing in. Her enemies are watching. Some are old, some are newly emboldened, and some are very, very close. Then it starts. At first, it's subtle. Fatigue, a slight chill, a refusal to eat. Then it gets worse. She collapses, vomits. Her body trembles with fever. Her skin loses its color, turning ghostly pale. Her eyes sink. Her lips crack. Physicians from across the empire are summoned to Topkapi. They examine her, treat her with herbs and potions, bleed her, pray over her. Nothing works. They call it a fever of unknown origin. A vague term, a useless one. Behind closed doors, the court is panicking. If Hürrem dies, the balance of power will collapse. The empire is already tense. Suleiman is aging, the succession is uncertain, and Hürrem's influence has kept rival factions at bay. But in the shadows, some begin to whisper. Not about disease. About murder. Someone poisoned her. The theory spreads quickly. The symptoms, the sudden decline, the confusion among doctors, it all points to something darker. Something intentional. But who would dare poison Hürrem Sultan? A woman so feared, so protected? Let's look at the suspects. Because if someone did kill her, they didn't just eliminate a queen. They struck at the very heart of the empire. And maybe they got away with it. Suspect number 1, Mahidevran Sultan, the exiled rival. Every queen has a rival, and Hürrem's greatest rival was Mahidevran Sultan, Suleiman's former favorite, and the mother of his eldest son, Prince Mustafa. Once, Mahidevran held the same place in Suleiman's heart that Hürrem later conquered. But over time, she was pushed aside, forgotten. Her son, Mustafa, was the empire's most promising heir. Brave, popular, and beloved by the military. That made him dangerous to Hürrem's ambitions. So she acted. Hürrem planted seeds of doubt in Suleiman's mind, whispers of betrayal, of ambition, of conspiracy. In 1553, Mustafa was summoned to the Sultan's tent and strangled with a silk cord by Suleiman's guards. Mahidevran lost everything that day. Her son, her future, her reason to live. She was exiled to Bursa. Powerless, but not forgotten. Would she have wanted revenge? Absolutely. Did she have means? Maybe not directly, but Mahidevran still had loyalists in the palace. People who hated Hürrem as much as she did. People who would kill for the right cause. Suspect number 2, Rustam Pasha, her own son-in-law. This one is more complicated. Rustam Pasha married Hürrem's daughter, Miraima. He was Grand Vizier for years and owed his entire career to Hürrem. She protected him, elevated him, gave him power. But here's the thing about power. Once you taste it, you'll do anything to keep it. By 1558, Hürrem's grip on the court was slipping. She was aging, and Suleiman was growing more isolated. New factions were emerging, and Rustam, he saw the writing on the wall. Some believe Rustam poisoned her not out of hatred, but strategy. If she fell, he could align with whoever rose next. Clean break. Fresh start. His own future secure. And guess what? As Grand Vizier, Rustam had full access to the palace. He controlled the kitchens, the staff, the doctors. If someone inside the court did it, he would have had the means. Suspect number 3, Sultan Suleiman himself. Now, what if the betrayal came from the one man she loved? It sounds unthinkable. Suleiman and Hürrem were lovers, soulmates. Their letters to each other still survive, romantic, poetic, deeply personal. He called her his Hürrem, his laughing one. He built mosques in her honor, let her break centuries of tradition. He defied his court for her. But he was also the Sultan, a man of duty, a ruler who executed his own son. By 1558, Suleiman was tired, weary, surrounded by factions and whispers. Hürrem's political maneuvering had made him enemies, inside and outside the royal family. Some believe he feared that, in her ambition, she had destabilized the court. If he did order her poisoning, it would have been done quietly, without spectacle, with dignity. A royal solution to a royal problem. No trial, no scandal, just silence, and then the sealed tomb. There was no investigation, no inquiry. No one dared ask questions, because in the Ottoman Empire, to question death was to invite it. Hürrem Sultan died on April 15, 1558. Her body was buried quickly. No grand funeral, no mourning in the streets. Just a quiet entombment beside the mosque complex she helped fund, near where her husband would one day join her. But the whispers never stopped. Even today, historians debate the truth. Did she die of natural illness? Or was her death an execution in disguise? One thing is certain. When queens rise in the Ottoman court, they don't fall quietly. And for Hürrem Sultan, who played the deadliest game of all, death may have been her final move, or someone else's. Suspect number 1, Mahidevran Sultan. She once held the Sultan's heart. She once sat where who? Before Hürrem, there was Mahid Supri. But then Hürrem arrived and Eve. W. And Hürrem won. She turned Suleiman against Mustafa. She convinced him, through careful letters, rumors, and stage betrayals, that his son was plotting treason. And in 1553, Suleiman made the darkest decision of his reign. Prince Mustafa was strangled by royal guards, on the Sultan's orders. No trial, no evidence, just silence and a silk cord. Mahidevran lost her son, her legacy, her reason to exist. She was sent to Bursa, exiled, disgraced. But exile is not death, and hate does not fade. By 1558, when Hürrem fell ill, Mahidevran still had loyal servants, old friends in the court, people who believed Hürrem had destroyed the rightful heir. Would she order the death of the woman who took everything from her? Wouldn't you? Suspect number 2, Rustam Pasha, the loyal traitor. He was family. He was poor. And that's exactly what makes him so dangerous. Rustam Pasha, Grand Vizier of the Ottoman Empire, married to Hürrem's beloved daughter, Miraima Sultan, elevated to the highest seat in the empire, all thanks to Hürrem. He owed her everything. But by 1558, Hürrem's influence was waning. Suleiman was growing distant. New enemies were rising. And Rustam, he was a survivor. He had already shown the world that blood meant nothing if power was at stake. He helped orchestrate Mustafa's execution. Yes, his own brother-in-law, just to protect Hürrem's other son, Selim. So the question is, what happens when Hürrem herself becomes a liability? With her gone, Rustam could reposition himself, align with new heirs, clean his hands. He had the means. He controlled the palace. He oversaw the kitchens. He knew the staff. If someone wanted to slip poison into her drink, he wouldn't have to ask twice. and he'd never confess. He loved his title more than his mother-in-law. And in Ottoman politics, betrayal was just another form of strategy. Suspect number 3, Sultan Suleiman, the silent executioner. This one hurts the most, because if Hürrem was murdered, it may have been by the man who loved her more than life itself. Suleiman the Magnificent. They wrote poems to each other. He built mosques in her honor. He broke 600 years of tradition and married her, something no Ottoman Sultan had ever done before. But even love has its limits. In his later years, Suleiman became paranoid, withdrawn, haunted by the blood on his hands. He had executed friends, viziers, his own sons, all for the good of the empire. And Hürrem? She had become too powerful, too feared, too meddling. Her schemes had cost lives. Her ambition had created enemies everywhere, from the military to the royal family. Some believe Suleiman saw the danger and did what he always did when someone became a threat. He removed them, not publicly, not with drama, quietly, strategically, like he'd done with Ibrahim Pasha, like he'd done with Mustafa. No arrests, no trials, just a slow decline, a silent burial. He wouldn't need to leave a trace. He was the Sultan. He didn't need permission or forgiveness. If he did it, no one would ever know. No one would dare ask. Narrator. So who was it? The vengeful mother? The power-hungry vizier? Or the very man who called her his Hürrem? His joy, his light, his queen? We'll never know. No autopsy. No records. No witnesses. Just rumors. Just shadows. But here's what we do know. The moment Hürrem died, the palace changed. The balance of power shifted. A void opened. Factions moved. Alliances shattered. And behind her sealed tomb, 1,000 secrets were buried alive. Someone killed her. Or maybe time did. But either way, she didn't go quietly. Because in the Ottoman court, death wasn't the end. It was just the next move in the game. And for Hürrem Sultan, queen, conspirator, legend, this was her final gambit. But not her last whisper. Fade to black. The sound of wind through palace arches. A heartbeat. Then silence. April 15th, 1558. The queen is dead. No trumpets. No ceremony. No parade through the streets of Istanbul. Hürrem Sultan, once the most powerful woman in the Ottoman Empire, was buried with a silence so loud, it echoed through the palace walls. Just days after her death, her body was quietly transported from the harem. No royal procession. No grand mourning. No final words from her beloved sultan. Instead, she was laid to rest beside a tomb that wasn't finished yet. Suleiman's tomb. Yes, she was buried next to him, in advance. As if she knew. As if they knew. Why the rush? Why bury her so quickly? Why no investigation? In most royal deaths, a funeral becomes a political stage. A chance to display legacy, loyalty, and power. But not this time. In this death, the power was hidden. Some say the Sultan was too heartbroken to face the court. Others believe he was too ashamed. Or maybe he had a reason to bury the body before the question started. Let's not forget, poison doesn't just kill the victim. It leaves traces. And time exposes everything. Unless, of course, you act fast and silence everyone. Inside that tomb, somewhere beneath layers of stone and royal inscription, lies a woman who rewrote history and then disappeared without a word. No one dared ask what happened, because in the Ottoman court, questions are more dangerous than answers. And rumors? Rumors are lethal. So the whispers began. She was poisoned. Her own family turned on her. Suleiman ordered it himself. But no one said it aloud. Not in the palace. Not in the streets. Not in history books. Instead, her death became a gap. A blank space between chapters. And in that blank space, truth died too. What's more chilling than a murder? A murder that gets away with it. And what's more powerful than a queen? A ghost that still rules from beyond the grave. Because make no mistake, Hürrem may have died, but her legacy, her fingerprints, her enemies, they were still very much alive. And every one of them would now fight for what she left behind. The palace, the throne, the future of an empire. No witnesses, no justice, No closure, just a sealed tomb. And inside it, the answer to the greatest mystery of the Ottoman court. Who killed Hürrem Sultan? Cut to black. A faint heartbeat fades away. She died nearly 500 years ago. But Hürrem Sultan refuses to be forgotten. You can find her on Netflix, in best-selling novels, in tourist brochures and academic journals. She's remembered as a temptress, a strategist, a queen, a villain, a survivor. But which one is true? That's the thing, no one agrees. And maybe that's exactly how she wanted it. After her death, something strange happened in the Ottoman Empire. A new power began to rise, not from the battlefield, not from the mosque, but from the harem. Women. For the next century, the empire would be subtly ruled not by sultans, but by mothers, wives, concubines. They called it the Sultanate of Women. And it all started with her. With Hürrem. She cracked open a door that no woman before her had dared to touch. And once it opened, it never fully closed. But her legacy is not just political. It's personal. Because Hürrem's story is a warning about what happens when power changes hands. She was born powerless, a slave. She died powerful, a queen. And in between, she rewrote the rules of one of the world's greatest empires. But power always comes at a price. She lived in a palace of secrets. She thrived by playing the game better than anyone else. And in the end, someone played it better. No one was ever punished. No confessions. No arrests. Because that's not how things work when the empire is built on silence. And maybe the most disturbing part? Whoever poisoned her didn't just kill a woman. They silenced a movement. They buried a revolution in silk and gold and stone. And yet centuries later, her shadow still lingers. In the halls of power. In every woman who dares to rise. In every story where ambition isn't a sin, but survival. They never found the poisoner. They never found the motive. They never found the truth. But maybe the truth was never meant to be found. Maybe the palace, like Hürrem, keeps its secrets well. In the Ottoman Empire, the most dangerous weapon wasn't the sword. It was trust. And the deadliest place wasn't the battlefield. It was the palace. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, because history is full of secrets. And not all of them are dead yet. Some are still hidden behind palace walls. Some wear crowns. And some are still waiting to be uncovered. This is just one shadow from the past. But there are more. Stranger. Darker. Real. So, if you think you know history, think again. New stories are coming. Stories that were never meant to be told. And the truth? It doesn't always rest in peace. Stay curious. Stay brave. And I'll see you in the next one.